Good evening, Mallory.
Good morning, Sam.
Welcome back to Nobody Leaves, the podcast where I trap Mallory in a van because she has to pay for her crimes. I
My
have forced Mallory. Oh, your crimes. Yeah, you're ready to confess already. Let me hear it.
my squeaky leg has given me away, Sam. It's true. It was me with the crowbar in the conservatory, and that wasn't very funny. Please go back to you.
Picking back up where Mallory dropped the ball, we're watching It Was Just an Accident, the 2025 film from Jafar Panahi. Give a little bit of an elevator pitch here because I feel like this is one of the more obscure things that we've covered on the podcast. You know, maybe not quite Mr. Boop level. This movie did get nominated for an Oscar after all, but I wanted to share this movie with you, Mallory, because I've gone on record saying it's my favorite film of 2025, and it kind of got lost to time. It had a super limited release, but I think it's a very what would you do if you were in this situation kind of movie. And those are very fun to talk about. So I'm excited to hear your thoughts about it. But just to give a little bit of background real quick, this is a movie set in Iran, made by an Iranian filmmaker, Jafar Panahi, about a guy who kidnaps a guy who he thinks tortured him in prison. But then, after kidnapping him, he's not sure if he has the right guy. And then hijinks ensue. But we'll get into it. Mallory, broad level, what'd you think of this movie?
I think that this was a really very good movie. It was phenomenal. It was really. I think what's crazy about it is you go into a movie like this that's like where it's going to be like talking about an oppressive political regime and dealing with a lot of uncomfortable topics. It's like and it's very much a topic of the movie is like, we in our air-conditioned houses don't like to think about what happens to people that are imprisoned for, protesting for like justice and causes that we align with or whatever. It's the kind of situations that we don't want to be focused on in like the day-to-day. So I think you're coming into a movie like this with a level of kind of like, okay, this is going to be heavy. I'm kind of preparing myself emotionally for it, whatever.
Nope.
For it to be just this road trip like comedy with these stock characters representing all these different aspects of society. I mean, just beautiful. The conversations, the cinematography, the costuming was really good. It's like really simply and effectively done, like so many things. And like reading up on some of the circumstances of like the conditions under which they had to like make this film and execute it, like incredibly impressive work. Which feels weird coming from me, an idiot who could make anything like this. Like, good job, kids. This is beautiful.
But it feels like attainable, right? Like it's like a 4-set movie, and it's like, what you can do with so little, with like 6 primary actors and like no action except for maybe one person swinging a shovel like off camera.
It gives
I'm
me
glad you also.
Reminder of like Wes Anderson's Bottle Rocket. Like it gives me that vibes of like just we don't have money to make this film. We just have enough people that are invested in it, but to just
so I know you've always loved
Yeah.
Fences, right? Like I know you like a play that's a movie that's also a play, and this is very play-like. Like you could see this being on a stage with like 6 actors as opposed to having to be out in the desert or in a van, and it would work just as well because it's more about the writing and the conversations and the ideas, but it's also really pretty. It's really well acted. It has like some very distinct faces in it. Like every person you meet, like you remember. There's not that many characters, but they all like stick with you because they are along for almost the entire ride for the movie. So I'm glad you picked up on what I also felt, which is this is the only Iranian movie I've ever seen. I assume it's the only Iranian movie you've ever seen. we are coming in this with a lot of biases being raised in like America, right? Of like even I would say that, you and I being, liberal cucks or whatever, and being like, everyone's a nice person, and you should treat people with humanity and respect as a default or whatever, which is not
Yeah.
necessarily how everyone
Beta
approaches
behavior.
the Middle East. Yeah. um I still went into this movie expecting to be like, oh, this is going to be so heavy, and it's going to be ultra dark, and it's going to, like, even just like seeing, I confront my own like internalized racism or whatever ever here. Like, the main character uses an iPhone. They're going to like a nice bookstore. They're like, there's CarPlay on the van. Like, it's just things that I don't think about, like, the modernized world for racist bias reasons. I don't apply that to Iran. But then you're driving around and you're like, man, this city's really pretty, and these people are people, and they're deserve respect, and they have internalization, and they're complex and whatever. Um and that's definitely something that I think gets lost when Iran has, for my entire life, just been like a headline,
Yeah.
and is currently in the news quite a bit. Uh, that makes me sad for many reasons. But it makes me happy that I've watched this movie and that I'm trying to share it with as many people as possible, because I think it has changed my opinions somewhat, or at least made me like confront those biases, by seeing like, oh yeah, they're just like me and you. They have iPhones and jobs and cars and nice apartments or whatever. And there is like unpaved roads and like stray dogs and whatnot, but I don't know. Like, that was something that I was happy to experience with the film. And it's a weird thing to start off the bat with, but I just thought it was interesting.
No, I think honestly, I think it's a good place to start in us discussing it because again, we're like two white people coming from America discussing this movie, right? And like we've
Mm-hmm.
been fortunate enough that like it got such a big platform and like it was like you saw it in the theaters and it got to be in the Oscars and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that and that we're discussing it because I think it is like it takes that to really like sometimes like splash you with water and I think there's like the feeling of like oh there's people in the world who like live in like just huts and there's people in the world who like have
It
nothing and they suffer like I think that's kind of what gets taught to you in a way and like the us
Well, like, the entire internet, like, a few months ago, realized that like Africa's a place with people and running water and infrastructure, because
right
IShowSpeed went there. Like, it takes getting a window into these unrepresented places to be like, oh, my opinions are very wrong and probably very racist. Like, you have to like, you have to seek this stuff out, because otherwise you have no need. You can just it. The world is simpler when you think in terms of like good guys and bad guys, and like corrupt regimes and America, where everything's going great. But
yeah
the world is very gray, I should say.
I think like it like it reminds me of I went to like an art exhibit or
Hmm.
yeah it was a couple years back but it was oh man it was in Tokyo but it was all about like mud around the world and it was and like the connection between like mud and human life and human history and like the lives of these people in like a part of Africa like you know harvesting mud and like making bricks and all this kind of stuff and it's like
Hmm.
they're living in huts but it's like I don't know like what is a hut that far away from a little apartment building that I'm living you know what I mean it's like
Sure.
there because I think there's this idea of like oh people are like back in time they're like trapped in like different and that was even more true
Hmm.
like I think about growing up in the UK and like how like video games would come out a few years later and how like technology would like spread and you could see it like you know it's just the world is so different when a new thing comes out it just hits like basically every corner. And I think like the reason I brought up that art exhibit is like they're like in a hut, right? But they're like on an iPad and they're watching like soccer or whatever. And
Right.
I'm like, what? The it's not to. minimize the hardships of certain like living conditions, but it's
Hmm.
also like the when we think of people as like they're back in time or they're living in such conditions, like if they were brought to America, they'd be like, oh, what is this, a Klondike? What, like the it's
Right,
like,
until you meet like an immigrant and they're like the smartest, hardest working person, like that. Then it becomes
yeah.
like, wait a minute, something's wrong
And
here.
they're also like, they're like, yeah, I had this growing up, I had that growing up, like it's not that,
Right.
like closing that gap, and like closing the gap between like things of that we might default think of as like, oh yeah, only us
Mm.
Americans have CarPlay or something like that, right? Like I think that's a great
Right.
example. um like really, I think humanizes people in a way and makes it like the thought that I have, and I think the racist thought that I had or was like kind of taught to me like growing up is like the idea that like, oh man, they have such a long way to go. They have such a
Hmm.
long way to go before they achieve like our standard of living or something. And it's like, no, it's these oppressive fucking regimes. It's not,
Yeah, it's like
you
no,
can,
they
yeah.
Iran could be so much more if it wasn't for just some problems that have been around for a long time, right?
Yeah,
And
like
you and
they're
I are not
fine as long as
experts
they're
on
not being tortured in prison. They're fine, like,
right. And you and I are not experts on the Iranian regime. We do not pretend
right.
to be. Uh, this movie came out at an interesting time because pretty shortly after it came out, there was a huge like protest crackdown, and a lot of people were killed. Um, the U.S. and Israel then took advantage of that to start bombing indiscriminately, and not really helping. In the common adage of war is that innocents are hurt and killed no matter what intentions you go into. And it seems like we're going in with not, I say we as American are going in with not the greatest intentions, and that's currently a huge kerfuffle that we're right in the middle of. um People are people. People are interesting and three-dimensional, and the characters in this movie are that. And I think it's
Mhm.
very, I think some of this is intentional, right? Like Jafar Panahi is a very political person. He is currently kind of on the lam from the Iranian government, but intends to return and serve a prison sentence for making this movie. Um, if this movie is considered too political for the Iranian government, then clearly something is wrong, right? Because a lot of the politics of this movie are, it's very like Hays Code y. In like the 60s, the Americans had the Hays Code, and that you had to like sneak in your references to things like politics and sex or what have you. This feels like that, where like this movie's undeniably political, but the majority of it is just like a is just about the situation, right? That they're in. Like it could be. I don't want to say it could be a kidnapping story and have nothing to do with politics because that would take away the bite of the movie. But the majority of what they're working on is like the plot mechanics of like getting this person from A to B, identifying this person that has been kidnapped, and then deciding what to do about it. And that is compelling on its own. But then you start looking at things like security guards having credit card readers to bribe you more efficiently, and you go, wait a minute, what was that about?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like the just when you are up against like, authoritarian fascist governments, it is just like stating facts is the thing that becomes controversial. Like the truth becomes fucking
Mm-hmm.
controversial. It's like it's pretty like just a, yeah, this happens. Like it feels like, just another day. Right? Aside from the fact that you have like a person like shitting himself in a box in your van, you
Sure.
know, it's just another like kind of stressful day in Iran. But it's like, yeah, I don't know, the bribes thing. I think the my absolute favorite detail that I adored was the main actress whose character is
Shiva.
named Shiva. Um, her like every time she like goes into certain places, like pulling out the little wrap like hijab
Like
thing
the
and like
head,
taking it
it's
off,
it's not a
the head
hijab,
wrap.
but like the headscarf.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the headscarf like every single time, and then like taking it off like was such a like look into like, yeah, this is the reality. Like this is the reality of this person's situation. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, like
Um,
clearly, like she is like a more like what we would call like a liberal or like a more subversive person to not be, you know, in a full hijab and not necessarily be what you think of when you think of women in Iran or how women have to be in Iran.
mm,
But she's able to deftly kind of navigate these circles and, you know, through her tact and through her like courage, is able to, yeah, like code switch at a moment's notice to like smooth things over so that they don't get fucking caught with a
yeah.
kidnapped person. Um, I know that like that is part of what the Iranian government cited as their problems with
Mm,
this movie is that she is not in a hijab like the entire movie.
right.
Um, and when she's first shown like taking photographs and she's got this like shock of gray hair and she's a very beautiful woman and it
Mm,
like she brings a certain energy to the movie that I think is like awesome and the impact of it is something that you and I don't even necessarily register at first glance, but is something that I think is like very brave. And I'm not trying to get very soapboxy here, but like this, it's hard not to talk about the making of this movie when talking about this movie. I love the
mm.
movie on like its own merits as well, but then when I
Yes,
think about all this extra stuff that made it very difficult to shoot, I'm like amazed. Like it's a miracle this movie happened, right?
for
And
sure.
watching it a second time, which is this is now my second viewing of it, having done some research on how it was made, it's like, oh yeah, they're in the van a lot. And every time they're on a street corner, the characters are nervous and looking around and like afraid that they're going to get caught and trying to like quickly run through the scene, or run through the thing happening in their lives. But the actors and actresses are doing that as well because they're like apparently like the majority of like the outdoor in town stuff is like the last things that were shot for this movie, and this movie was shot out of order, um,
Mm.
because it was where they were most likely to be caught filming a movie they didn't have permission to film, and that it adds it's additive to the movie itself because it's a movie about people doing something illegal and trying not to get caught, doing something illegal but arguably righteous and trying not to
Mm.
get caught, and it's like that is fascinating.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So much props to her for doing something like absolutely courageous, but like so valuable and powerful. I think to like a movement, and it's like again, I'm not an expert in this, but it is like a
Hmm.
regular thing. It's a regularly systematically organized protest thing against like the laws about like hijabi and like the scaling back and forth with like different regime changes and that kind of stuff of
Right.
like the level to which you're like required to cover up as like a woman, and it's like mandatory nature under the government. So I don't know, it's such a like and I think of like the movie as a whole as like a really powerful message to just have her there
Right.
like is
Her
so
presence
much.
automatically, because of the conditions the movie were made in, makes the movie political. But then the plot, the bells and whistles, the A to B, like all that is excellent in terms of like every person in that van like changes their opinion two or three times on like how to deal with the situation, right?
Mm,
It's like they made 12 Angry Men again, but they put it in a
yeah.
van in Iran and had it about the life of a person that was kidnapped. Like I was finding myself convinced like over and over again by like all of them, right? I don't have the character's name written down, but the groomsman, or not groomsman, the groom
Mm,
who is kind of the voice of reason but has like the least skin in the game in terms of like he
yes.
wasn't tortured. Like he's making a lot of sense when he's like, we should stay as far away from this as possible. You're all gonna get caught. You're all gonna be killed. Like this is goalie can't handle this and that. But her saying, I have got to know if it's him or not. This person ruined like the way that all these people's lives were ruined in different ways and how they've
Mm,
the levels that they've moved on or not moved on from being in prison, for anyone lost. The character starts recruiting people who might be able to identify the kidnapped man to um, find out if he has the right man or not, because they were all blindfolded in prison, but they each have different ways of like sussing out if it's the guy or not. Like one of them wants to hear his voice, one of them smells him and goes, "Yeah, it smells like the guy. It smells like the smell I remember." and one of them like was forced to touch his captor's like lost leg, because the guy would constantly brag about losing his leg in Syria because he was a fanatic.
Because he's really
Um,
cool.
because he's a really cool guy. It's super normal thing to do and to treat a person who's incarcerated. Um, and it's very sensory, but also like you can feel all of them wanting to believe that they have the right guy or the opposite. And it's
Mm,
like, I don't know if I didn't know if they had the right guy for a long time in the
yeah.
movie, right? I don't know. Where did you come down on that?
I honestly, it was not even until the confession, like, because Hamid is like such a desire, like, and you're led to believe, like, Hamid's the most extreme one. I think
Mm-hmm.
Diva of the Evening Award, we give this to the biggest diva of the movie, Hamid,
Hamid?
icon. I love Hamid.
Yes.
I think that Hamid,
This guy, Hamid, this character is so intense that like the minute he thinks there's even a possibility they have the right guy, he's trying to strangle him while he's unconscious. Like this guy is like so intense, but also really funny and really
they,
like brings a lot of energy to the movie as well.
I think that when you're watching this movie and we're kind of in the rising action as they're like recruiting more and more people, we have the whole like wedding
Mm-hmm.
photography scene and like all that kind of stuff,
Right.
and we're like building and building. The whole movie was like waiting for Hamid. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
like before we knew Hamid's name, we're like, when are we gonna get to the Hamid who is gonna
The
go just so hardcore in the like, we need to shoot this guy no matter what, you know?
right.
Um, we're waiting for
Bury
him.
him under the jail. Like this. Fuck this guy.
We finally get to Hamid, and like the whole time they're just being like, Hamid's gonna absolutely lose his shit, and we're not gonna be able to control him in any way at all, and Hamid's gonna go
Mm-hmm.
absolutely wild. They finally get to Hamid. The first thing we do, we don't even know which of the like four guys he is yet because he hasn't separated from the ground.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing he does is pushes like Shiva to the
His ex
ground.
girlfriend to the ground. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh my, Hamid, and then I don't know. I think that really well written character. Obviously, you know, he's playing kind of like the, you know, heel or the one that goes too far or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
I think to your point of like they've all convinced you at certain points, like that scene when they're out in the desert and it's like this just continuous shot going back and forth, and it's like, you know, we go from like Goalie, like the bride on her knees like begging and like explaining like the horrors that she like experienced to like
Explaining
her.
to her fiance they're getting married tomorrow. This is
Yeah,
why I have to be here. Like I cannot move on until this is resolved. Like
yeah.
I
And
can't let this go.
it's like they're about to be married, and this is the first time he's hearing of this, is like here. It was insane scene.
Hmm.
And then like cutting to Hamid, and we're like lingering on Hamid, going like back and forth for a while and going back and going back. There's a scene where it's just him and he's not walking around and antagonizing people, and he's just like going on about it, like where you're just like, damn, Hamid,
It's
you
the
really
most
did
like
make a good point.
monologue the movie
Yeah.
gets, right? Until
Mm.
the confession scene, which is also incredible. But like I love how often you don't see the character you most want to see the reaction to
Oh my
in the movie,
god.
right? Like they do that incredibly well later on, but in that scene, like it's 10 minutes of us not seeing our main character, Vahid.
Yeah.
Like he's the one who started this all by kidnapping the guy, and
Mm.
he really takes a back seat. Like he does the most extreme action of any of them, but then everyone else has a much more extreme opinion about what they should do, and he kind of takes a back seat. He's like a very interesting protagonist.
Mm.
um he's also not shown, he's not the first person we meet in the movie. Like he's introduced like 20 minutes in, and I think that's like also a really
Yeah.
cool choice. But like so often you're watching, you know, someone have an explosive argumentative opinion about what to do, like moving the plot forward, and you're just sitting there going, what does Shiva think about this? What does Vahid think about this? Like, please cut to them, please show them. And it's just not, it just locks you in this person's like worldview before like finally giving you the release of being like, okay, well, here's what I think about that. And it's just these people bounce off each other so well. um it's a very talky movie, and there's not a lot of like action, but I found myself like entranced the whole time.
Yes, visually absolutely hooked. I think that scene is such a memorable one. The interrogation scene, like obviously like the big finale, the lighting of
Hmm.
like the cars backlights, like everything, and like them just going around the tree, and the whole time you're kind of like, okay, did Vahid and Shiva like think of a plan where, okay, Shiva's gonna not be involved with this at all, like she's just gonna
Nope.
stay out of it? No, she's just been sitting there watching the entire time and wasn't speaking because she hadn't decided whether or not she wanted to speak, because obviously speaking like puts her at like risk of being identified,
Hmm.
much in the way that like you know Vahid was able to identify Eggball, like they're putting themselves at risk for like the same thing to come back to them in the future, right?
Hmm.
um
And that as a plot point, like, just adds complications throughout the whole movie, right? Like, this is a movie about like five people who have to get on the same page, and for a long portion of it, they can't talk to each other because speaking means complicit, like being uh implicated in the conspiracy, right? And that also, you could think about that like thematically, right, in terms of these are all people who were picked up for protesting, seemingly about workers' rights was what they the majority of them got protested for, but maybe Shiva's was more about women's rights specifically.
mm,
But they're in a position where speaking puts themselves in danger while also trying to get revenge on that same situation. Like, it all like, there's so many levels to it that I think all work very well thematically. Like, it's a very tight story that just everything feeds into everything.
yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's such a, like, yeah, the issue of coalition building when your
Hmm.
means of communication are being hampered like that, the stress of trying to coalition build and come across these things. And like at one point Hamid mentions like he's in there and he's not even doing anything and he's like turning us against each other, which at that point Hamid's kind
Hmm.
of being a dick in general, so it's like, okay, but
Right.
like you know he wouldn't eat the pastry, come on man. You gotta eat the pastry. But I mean it, but it's not like a invalid point completely. It's like, yeah, like people are
They're
ending
all
up
right and
fighting each
wrong,
other.
right?
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. But there's no correct moral answer. Like, we haven't even gotten to the morality of like revenge, right? Like, it's so that's become such a common like trope in storytelling of like, is revenge, when is revenge justice, and when is justice revenge, and like, when
Mm.
is killing this man the right thing to do, even if he is the guy, is something that the characters are very divided on
Mm. And go back and forth on, which is
and go
so
back and
fun.
forth on. And sometimes they change each other's minds. They flip back and forth. The people who are most passionate about it kind of just fade away after the hospital scene. Like, it it's a tough decision, and I didn't know what they were going to do the entire movie, like
Yeah.
the entire time. And you get a cathartic ending, I think, while not also getting all the answers, or even
Mm.
like who was right, who was wrong. There's clearly villains in the movie, but there's also like, it just leaves you thinking, right? Like, this is a movie you sit around at like dinner after the theater and go like, what should they have done? Maybe not.
Yeah.
There's no right answer, right?
Mm. Something I want to say on the revenge point, and this is like, I'm connecting this to bringing it to something that's like, more like in our wheelhouse of knowing and be able to
Hmm.
speak more authoritatively on it. Like we're trying very
Sure.
hard not to speak authoritatively about like Iranian politics. Um, the there was recently a like hearing. I don't know if you saw anything about this. I listened to a my favorite political podcast, which is a bit fruity, recently like did an episode covering these like hearings of these like Doge people that were hired by Elon Musk to like destroy the federal government. Um,
Yes. There was a whole
and
kerfuffle
used,
about whether or
yeah,
not to release the videotaped interviews of these dipshits who
yeah,
were given positions of power to like wipe out people's livelihoods because on vibes, basically.
Yeah, these 20-year-olds who used ChatGPT to say delete anything that is related to DEI, basically, or like give me a
Right.
list of things that are related to DEI. Um, and a point that they made in that, which I think was like really salient and relevant to me. You have these 20-year-old dipshits who, yeah, like, destroyed untold amounts of livelihoods, all these
Hmm.
defunded like movies about like a documentary about women in the Holocaust receiving gender
Hmm.
based discrimination because that's DEI or whatever. Um, and like they are sitting there like having to face consequences for this, like the actions that they have, or like just even like looking bad, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
they're just kind
Yeah,
of
they don't
like,
want the
mm,
they feel justified in their actions in the moment, but then they don't want their names out there. They don't want to be publicly. They don't. They don't want to say it with their whole chest, right? Like you can draw parallels between these dipshits and like the people right now who are working for ICE and are like, well, we have to be masked because we're breaking the law constantly, even though
right.
we're the upholders of justice or whatever.
Yeah, like
But yeah,
absolutely.
please
Like
continue.
that was the exact parallel I wanted to draw. Is like you've got like these, ICE recruitments that are happening. They're not just like three
Mm,
random like trust fund kids. They're like, like these on the ground. It's like this just campaign. They're doing like Spotify ads and shit because they just want like people
right.
like us that are racist and sexist or whatever that are our age to like be getting in these vans and kidnapping fucking like Mexican people,
Anyone, just anyone.
anyone, just anyone. And I think that the salient point that they made that I think really I connected in this movie a lot to this situation with this like uh you know prison guard or whatever in this like
Hmm.
under this previous regime is like these people like the reason why you want power and control and the reason why a lot of people are attracted to power and control is because it's like safety. Okay, if
Right. It's a
you
fear-based response. Is you
yeah
want to control more of the chessboard so that you feel like I won't get my king stolen or whatever you, or I won't be hurt or
yeah
attacked or
exactly.
humiliated is the term that Ekbal uses. I assume you're going that direction.
Yeah, which I love that it like him connecting it to like childhood bullying. I don't want to be humiliated or whatever, and it's like
Mm,
it feels like like we're jumping ship to be with the whole MAGA Trump thing because we are just trying to save our own skins. And if you're like,
right. I don't want to be poor. I don't want to be a minority. Is what a lot of white people are doing. Like I would like we got to get rid of the Mexican people. We got to get rid of uh, Asian Americans, what have you, because then if I'm the minority population, then they're going to treat me as badly as I've been treating them. So we
mm,
can't have that. So we got to dig our heels in and be more racist and more, crazy and what have you,
yeah,
and have policies that keep women and people of color down, right? Like that's the goal.
yeah, absolutely. And it's like, the if you're walking around town like looking like I do, there's been times where that's been illegal and it their tides are
Those times
maybe
might not
trying
be
to make it
over.
illegal in it. It's
Sure.
like and the same with this like women walking around like not wearing hijab and stuff like that. It's like that's you're putting yourself at risk and you're sticking your neck out. So you think I don't want to be like
Hmm.
that. I want to be safe. I want to like, be the people doing the like stomping on people's necks. I don't want to get stomped on.
Hmm.
And that's not like forgetting the morals of it. That's not a smart move. That's a very stupid thing
Yeah.
to do because these regimes don't last forever
Right.
and people will remember what you've done if you are this cruel to people. And
That's a big argument happening in the U.S. right now of like presumably, if we have a free and fair election, Republicans aren't going to do that well coming soon because they've. I don't know if you know this. Gas is 380 in the U.S. and ultimately it seems like people only care about the prices of eggs and gas, and they throw their morals out the window. But if
yeah,
Republicans aren't even delivering on that, in addition to murdering people and bullying people and harassing and taking away rights and whatnot. People start to care about that secondarily after the economic stuff. But if they're failing on both, then suddenly there's going to be a lot of angry movement in that direction, and they're presumably going to lose power at some point if we have a free and fair election, which is an if. Feels like an if for the first time in my life, which is a bummer. But we'll get to that later. That's a problem for future, everybody. The conversation right now is, are people who are currently serving under ICE going to be charged? Are there going to be trials? You know, the term Nuremberg is getting thrown around a lot, the city. And people, there's going to be a desire for justice, and if it follows the pattern of all of the, Nixon and beyond and what have you, probably not. These people are probably going to fade away and then spring back up when they have the chance to do more harm.
But
whether it's productive, but people will remember,
like, whether or not legally they are persecuted en masse, and whether or not all of them face justice, or whether all of them face a proportionate amount of justice, they are creating Vahids. They are creating Shivas. They're creating people who, like, if you just kind of destroy people's lives, people are gonna fucking hate you.
People are gonna hate you for a long time.
They're creating Luigi Mangionis. Like, you're a healthcare CEO, you're just kind of like checking boxes and trying to get funds up, and you get shot in the fucking dome. It's not a smart strategy, and it's not as fail-safe as people think it is. I think that was the feeling I was really left with, and that's just kind of where I'm like, I don't know, like, it's just hard to not look at people who make these decisions, like, just trying to put safety above all else, as, like, playing a really short-sighted and misguided game. A lot of people are going to get away with it. A lot of people are going to hide their crimes.
Well,
a lot of people,
the new 21st century strategy for that is an old strategy. It's just controlling information, and this is why you see people buying up media companies. This is why you see people buying up social media companies. This is why you see people trying to algorithmically whitewash their actions, right? Because they get to the point where they start committing atrocities or supporting atrocities, and then they start to panic because they realize, wait a minute, I'm going to be remembered as the dipshit who got Trump elected, or, like you're seeing this with like the Joe Rogans of the world right now, where it's like, man, I didn't think that critically, and now people fucking hate me, and that makes me sad. Yeah, Joe, maybe you should have thought a little more critically, but I get afraid, right? Because I think people are, the Fahids of the world, right, have this anger, but that anger can be blinding, right? And you don't want that anger to be... retaliation is such a tricky thing, right? Like, do I think that people who are working for ICE right now should go to jail? Yeah, I think the majority of them should go to jail, and I think that they are... that position is attracting, like, the worst of the worst, right? In this country that I live in. And I don't want those people taking off their masks and, like, re-entering society and being, like, these unhinged, crazy people. But there's also the argument of, like, you can't move on if that's all you end up doing is just, like, tit-for-tat political retaliation.
Yeah.
Now, Republicans seem to have no problems with that, and Republicans are doing that. Robert Mueller died last week, and Trump is going, glad he's dead, fuck that guy. And that's the sitting president of the United States. That's a little shocking to see. Still, after all these years, it's still a little shocking to be like, whoa, what did Rob Ryder do to you, man? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
I don't know. We're living in weird times.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to make it's like, I'm not necessarily being like, if you're the Vahids of the world, the right thing to do is to go and kill whoever, right? Like, I think that's not necessarily... but I think I'm more like the point being, like, if you're the and I'm getting his egg balls of the world, like, you be lucky that you got a Fahid and you didn't.
You can't be surprised that this is coming to your doorstep, right?
Yeah, like you are fully, like, sometimes you talk shit, get hit, and I think that like some people get really far through life without learning that lesson. Some people make it the whole 9 yards. Some people never get hit, but like
Hmm.
it's not a very sustainable, safe strategy. You cannot just trust that
Well,
like everyone is gonna roll over. You know, like I'm speaking to those
listen,
people, which is not anywhere relatively close to like us or anyone who would probably even click on this video. But
I mean, like, listen, the Luigi Mangione thing, shooting the healthcare CEO, that to me was so shocking in in my own personal reaction to it of being like, okay, I'm kind of okay with this. That was shocking to me. I did
mhm.
not realize I've become as cynical as I have. Like, the world has forced me into that position, right? Where like money destroys everything in my life constantly, and like it makes me crazy, and it makes me like it like makes me okay with vigilante justice, which is not the kind of person I'd like to think I am. Um, but I saw reactions to that in people that I would have never expected, right? In like the friendly like mom of two in my Pilates class. I don't go to Pilates, but just as an example, like that person being like, "Yeah, glad that guy's dead." That's you can feel it. You can feel people just getting tired of it all. Like getting tired of the haves. The haves have been in power for too long and have exercised their power to maintain more power. And as they suck away freedoms and wealth and kindness away from the majority, it's only gonna last so. It can only that it can only it becomes too top heavy and then it tumbles.
Yeah, no, it's certainly like I think yeah, and there's a lot of I think the like victim side of that is a lot more complicated. I think the if you're
Hmm.
the perpetrator, like you just kind of have to be like, well, I've the consequences of my actions, like that meme. You know what I mean? Like you just have to
Right.
kind of sit with it. I think if you're on the victim side, obviously there's a whole spectrum of um, like I think there's a lot of people, you know, if Donald Trump dies, I will smile like straight up. That's
Sure. I saw
I I
a very popular comic going around last week about that.
I wish I saw it, man. I like I'm and I don't think that that's gonna solve all of my problems if he dies, like evidently. And I don't think that like I'm gonna be sneaking up and trying to be the one pulling the trigger or whatever.
Sure.
But I'm just like, man, whatever. You know what I mean? Like that's the feeling.
And
And I
that's experience is new to me, right? I'm having that
I
same
hear you.
reaction as you. Like I had that with
Mm,
the assassination attempt, right?
mm,
And that I don't like the kind of person that these people are making me, right? And I think that applies to this
mm,
movie as well, where like the these people went through much more hardship than you or I have,
right.
right?
100%.
I don't know how I'd react. I leave this movie going, maybe I would have done the same thing. I don't know. Maybe would I have let him go? Would I have not? I don't know. But they're made worse because of it. Like they're brought down to they're not the argument that some of them make is that they're being brought down to Ekbal's level. I don't necessarily believe that. And I don't think the
Mm,
movie necessarily believes that. But you can make that argument, right? Like, it's definitely a concern that all the characters have, and that concern is justified, right? Because it's making them into worse people, into more violent people. But this guy sucks. And I
yeah.
can't tell Shiva to say, don't kill him. Like, it's not my place, right?
Mm.
I if they had killed him at that tree, I think I would have kind of understood it. And can we talk about that ending for a minute? The final ending?
Oh, the final ending? Yeah. I mean, we
The
can. I really
final
want to go
ending,
back
the
to
last
what we were
we'll go
talking
back to
about,
the
but
tree.
yes.
We'll go back.
Please hit me.
But that is such a stroke of like brilliance in writing, right? In because you don't know there's so many little details about how much of Vahid's injury is psychosomatic, right? Like
Mm.
clearly he has liver damage they reference with his talk with the bookshop guy. And he clearly like when he's carrying things, like he is hurt or whatever, but he always is like holding onto that injury when he's stressed out. And when you first see him, he
Mm,
does not seem injured. He doesn't seem to walk with a limp, like any of that,
yeah.
until Ekbal comes back into the shop and he's first like confronted with it. If you told me that the peg leg noise at the end was in his mind, I think that's a reasonable interpretation. But the way it's shot, with the car just at a frame pulling up behind the van, and him like scared stiff, not moving, and the footsteps coming in and then kind of fading away, and you don't know if, like, does that mean Ekbal found him and is giving him like a warning but is letting him go? Is it just the birds that are chirping in the scene that sounds like the peg leg and he's just scarred for life by the situation? That's a legitimate theory, and I think it's a reasonable one, right? Leaving it an ambiguity in a movie about ambiguity is perfect. It's like a cooler version of the Inception spinning top, right? Like, it's like, is it him or is it not? Like, what does it mean? It is, I think, my second favorite movie moment of the year, second only to the Sinners piercing the veil scene, which I think is also just amazing. Um, it left me with such a good feeling about this movie, even if I don't feel great for where the characters are left. Like, I feel bad
Yeah,
for them, but I feel like this movie making is just incredible.
and it's like off the conversation we're talking about, it's the weight of like now you have someone out, like he's your Vahid now. Like you have someone out in the world who resents you and resents what you did to him, and if you were to
Mm-hmm.
run into it, like when he first hears the sound, like he's triggered, and like that's what I want to lead into talking about, but he's like he's triggered and panicking, freaking out or whatever, but it's in a way where like if that guy sees him, it's kind of like, but like now he's created like, if they met in the street, the guy who did the cruelty is just gonna kind of be like, oh, whatever. But now that their like situation is reversed, it's like, oh no, he has a reason why he would want to beat me up or whatever. It's become a threat
Mm-hmm.
in a
Or
different
kill
way.
him
Like
or
the
arrest him. Yeah.
yeah, the meaning of that sound has like has greatly changed. And it's this thing of like I almost want to like take morality out of it. It's just like the the principle of talk shit get hit, like the just universal like, or do shit get hit, or
Mm-hmm.
throw sand on someone and get hit. It's like you you've in doing this, like you have made a choice that now like you have to like bear those consequences where you have to be like on the lookout, because any like whether it's the birds chirping or whether it's someone else with a prosthetic leg, like that could
Right.
mean the end for you, like at any time, like while you're trying to move forward in your life. um
Any chance of him moving on from, like, he seems to be one of the characters who's moved on the least, along with our favorite character, the diva of the evening himself.
yes.
Um, but like, the only character who walks away from this without deepened scars, right, is the bookshop owner who stays out of it, who is remains like a neutral party, right? Like,
Mm.
it, if he was already living a life, it seems, where he was not able to get over it, and was, he's single, his fiance has been long dead at this point, and it seems like he's got this injury, but he has off ramps to get off, like, to improve his life, to change his path. His friend at the bookstore is making hospital appointments for him that he's ignoring, right, because he can't let this go.
Mm.
And now he really can't let it go, and the fear is real, and it's his fault. um but he did the, like, morally, he let the guy go, and that, good, bad, what have you, he did not stoop to his level. Like, he stood on his own principles, and he may pay the price for that. And is he a fool? Is he a good man? I don't know. That's why I love this movie.
Yeah, I think it's, I don't know, to me, okay, I have a lot of feelings about this. I think and
Mm,
this is where I've been being like, let's get back to this, and thank you for bringing this right there. The
sure.
whole thing of like stooping to people's level, I have
Hmm.
very like, it gets
I
thrown
It is
around
an
a lot.
oversimplification, right?
Yeah.
to
Oh,
say
it's
that
certainly, yeah.
Vahid is made as evil as this man by kidnapping the man, because it becomes immediately like the who struck first question, right?
Yeah, like when they're all talking about it, like in the movie, and I'm glad that they're talking about the movie of like, let's not sink to their level, like that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I think on, I think there's kind of like two different things happening where I think on the one hand, it's like the way I feel about like moving on from something that like happened to you that was like kind of traumatic or whatever, like
Mm-hmm.
usually just kind of following your like most violent instincts and doing whatever you want and like trying to like inflict that pain is like, first of all, it's often like a moot point, like trying to, because what you want to do to the person that you want to have revenge on is you want to teach them like the extent of the pain they caused you. Like you're kind of
Mm-hmm.
emotionally trying to cause them enough pain so that they understand like, oh, this is how bad the thing that I did to you was. It's kind of like not really effective way of teaching someone something. It's a very human
Right.
instinct, but it's like
Yes.
in my experience with, and I have, and no one's in my van. Okay, I don't own a car, but
That we
like
know
in
of.
any time that I've tried to have revenge on someone that like hurt me in a deep, significant way, not in like a
Mm-hmm.
trivial way at all, is like been that has been the experience of like, and that's been like the teacher that like that's not really like a good thing to do because it's like you're not really like, they're never gonna care that much. They didn't care to begin with,
Right.
and like it's really hard to hit people where it hurts, and usually realistically the way, if you wanted to hit someone where it hurts, where they're actually gonna feel a level of pain like that is equivalent to what they caused you, you're gonna have to start stepping outside the law, and that's really not a good long-term investment, again because of talk shit get hit principle, and like blowing up your own life just to like pursue revenge, right, is like
Mm-hmm.
you're the off ramps and any chance you could have of growing and healing and recovering. Like revenge is like, I feel like the opposite of healing in a lot of ways. Like you cannot.
Right. It does not bring you catharsis because you don't get the reaction you want.
Mm-hmm.
It usually deepens the resentment that the person who hurt you has.
Mm.
Like it is. But what do you do if you can't get
Yeah.
over it, right? If something has happened to you that's irreversible, or that like you can't move on beyond. The argument the movie seems to be making is that you should
Mm.
move on and you'd be happier for it. But I think as the world changes, I think these our media are, what our art changes to reflect that, right? And I think this movie does not live in black and white revenge bad. You have to pay for doing that, for stooping to their level. Like this movie keeps it, by having that little coda, it throws it all into question of whether it was right to let that guy go. Like both
Mm-hmm.
logically it's bad. It's bad. You let that guy go. You open up the possibility for retaliation, for additional retaliation, going back to prison, the thing that none of these characters want the most. Um, Morally, it's probably good for his soul, his heart, what have you. But by placing that code at the end, like this movie is, I think, a 2025 movie as opposed to a 1990 movie where it'd be like revenge bad. We're
Yeah.
leaving it there. We're not thinking deeper about it.
Totally. Because I think that's like the other side to it is like the opportunity to like get
Mm-hmm.
revenge. Like it's almost like a fantasy. Like the whole like tree scene and everything, and like once it's
Mm-hmm.
revealed that it is the guy, I think just flips into this mode of catharsis. Like it was really taking me back to like specific instances that I've had with people where I don't know, I'll occasionally have those thoughts of like, man, I just want to, like I just, like it's like,
I want to pull the knife out and stab you and twist it.
yeah,
Yeah, like
like the him being humiliated and like crying and all this kind of stuff. You're like, yeah, it's like that opportunity being presented to you, like that becomes kind of like a fantasy in a way, and there's like a whole
Hmm.
genre of like kind of revenge fantasy type of movies. Like I think of like Kill
Right.
Bill or something like that, right? Um,
What can
which
I
I've only seen
say?
part one.
It.
Mm.
I think the writing and the performance of it, this movie could have very easily turned into like, and I told him off, and everyone started clapping. Like, it could have been. It could have very
No, it's
easily,
super real and
but it's
grounded.
super real. Like, he does not come out and go, "I'm a whore." Like, he says he's a piece of shit, but he's being forced to do that, right? Like, the little bit you get from him, like the little tiny bits of remorse, he still feels like it very like a selfish person, right? Like, he doesn't suddenly become like this chaste, like changed man or whatever. Like, he feels true to his character from what we know of the
Mm.
Gimp or the Peg Leg. He feels true to that person the entire time, even if he does show some regret. It does not turn into the like, and you're so right, and I've changed my ways, and we're all gonna Iran's fixed forever, right? Like, it rejects that notion, and it is done really thoughtfully and really like realistically, I feel like. But yeah, please continue.
Yeah, absolutely no. So I think it's like even then there's a level of catharsis because it's like that it even what they do get is more than you would like typically get. And I
Mm-hmm.
think because it's presented so realistically and because it's like he's not healed by this his lashing and he's not like he's you can tell he still is kind of like a jackass, but she manages to pin him on the one thing, which is like he's like, I don't care if I die, I'm gonna go to heaven, and then like it's quickly revealed like, yeah, I don't want to die. Like I want to meet my son, all this kind
I
of
want to meet
stuff.
my son. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that one excuse gets really like shoved in his face, I think. um but I think even with all that, there's like a level of catharsis I felt, and then there was just like, I don't know. I think of it as like it's bad. It's bad and it's not healing to do all these revenge things, but I don't morally, but only because it's
I
not
don't. I
helpful for
wouldn't
the victim.
condemn. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would not condemn the victims for making any choice in the situation.
yeah,
Basically, is how I come
no,
about it.
absolutely.
But
Like if they put him
disclaimer:
six
the
feet
Nobody
under,
Leaves
I would be
podcast
like,
does not agree with vigilante
chill.
justice or murder. But however,
Yeah,
but
the
and but's doing a
that
lot of
that
work
is
here.
that is truly my thing. Like I truly like that's where I come down. Like I would not judge them for putting him 6 feet under. I
Hmm.
don't judge Luigi Mangione for what he did. It sucks for like if my friend was like, I'm gonna be Luigi Mangione too, I would be like, hey man, you could also
Well,
like
hold on.
you know you could like start a YouTube channel. It's like I it's like um just because I care about them as a person or whatever, right? But like the action, I don't think I would never put Luigi Mangione on the same level as like that healthcare CEO.
Hmm.
There's an essay. There was this like essay thing we had to read about like Osama bin Laden when we were in
Hmm.
I think
High
early high
school.
school. I'm trying
Okay,
to remember when he died, but like it was
like
this
2012 ish.
yeah, it was this essay about like everyone in the whole world was happy that someone died, but it was someone who died. And I think that was like
Right.
where I really stumbled into the morality of like it's fucking stupid. Like this is it. You like it's not all the same. It just isn't. It's not like yeah, and
But that was a moral argument you could have in 2012, and it's a more that like that argument seems dead. Like, if you're going, but every human life is sacred. That, like, I hope we get back there. We're not there right now, and I think it's bad that we're not there. But I think it's totally understandable. Like,
if I'm being
we have
honest,
too much
yeah.
information, and
I think
we
mm,
are confronted with evil every day. Continue.
I apologize for interrupting you. I feel like if I'm being
I
honest,
interrupted you.
I think I think it pissed me off in 2012 and it pisses me off now, and there are people who are
Hmm.
still with that mindset that are like looking more and more foolish. I think you're 100% on the money that like the general attitude towards that has changed a lot. I feel
That feels
like
like the argument made
yeah.
by like a Democratic senator who's been a senator for 10 terms And it's like, I don't understand why things are getting worse. It's like, you gotta wake up a little bit. Like, all right,
So wake
like,
up, old man. Yeah, I think
yeah,
like
like, yeah,
mhm. It just there's so many situations of like take death out of it and anything like
hmm
do I fire the person who's being racist or do I fire the person who's the do I fire the bully or the victim, like do I like and
Well,
the
I guess I gotta fire both, says principal of any public school in the U.S. Like, god damn it, like,
and the most like like pertinent drill tweet that was ever made, which is like, didn't you know that all good and bad things are the same actually, you idiot, you fucking moron. Like that's it. It's like it's not great to have to kill people. Of course I'd love to, uh
change hearts and
fix their
minds, and yeah,
hearts and put a
sure,
like when we developed the like institute for like reforming dictators, and they have to like go through their like 7-month program where they like relearn empathy or whatever the fuck, and they're
hmm
permanently depowered or whatever in a way to where they're neutralized as a threat. Great, of course that would be like the perfect option if you just press a button and build the ideal world. But it's like
right.
I'm never gonna get mad at someone for doing. I'm like, especially as someone who's like continuing to be cruel. I guess that's
Right.
maybe the one argument you could make for that. I don't know if it's ever really hinted at as to like what this guy does for work. He's obviously like
No, it's not. But there's a lot of little things in that opening
he's
scene,
rich.
which also is rich. Yeah, that's the clear thing. But also, like, there's choices there where like they give him a daughter, right? And she's young enough that she doesn't have to wear hijab yet, and that is like that. Those are all like very poignant choices the movie makes. Just keep you thinking about these things, right? Like his wife is the most like by the book Iranian woman that like you and I picture when we think of like repression in Iranian culture or what have you. Um, and all the things that she says when they hit the dog and when they're driving is like, oh, it's God's willing, and this and that, and it's a complete like it's an immediate like we're gonna gloss over the dog died. Oh well, it was God's plan anyway. I'm gonna go be Drake now and do some bad things. God's plan. It Yeah, that's the little bits you get are way more interesting the second time around because that scene's long and you're not given any like anything to latch on to in terms of what's going on other than these people hit a dog and their car broke down. But I don't think he's changed. I don't know. Well,
Yeah, I mean,
he.
like, I think the most telling part of that is like the way he reacts to the whole situation is he's being like
Mhm,
defensive, like he's being accused of something huge by his daughter in a way that
right,
you would expect a parent to hopefully be like, this is a kind, gentle teaching moment. I'm sorry, like things die or whatever, which like
right.
the mom, like, yeah, like her way of being like, this is God's plan is like maybe like fucked up or whatever, but it's, and like in with the morals of the maybe, but it's a lot more
I
like, hey, let me teach you about life and like things die and it was
right.
an accident, right? Like, in a way that the dad is just being like, what are you, I didn't like, what are you accusing me of something like
There's
that?
a
I'm like,
little
yeah,
bit about it though. Like he turns the music up at first, like he's playing along with the daughter, right? Like he's not at first blush, oh, this guy is a like torturer in a prison, like
mm,
that. Like it seems like that's something I did in my 20s. Like yeah, I worked for ICE, but now I run a bodega. Like it's a little, it's a little like sane washing or whitewashing of the guy
yeah,
in that first scene, so that you, the audience, has to sit here and go, is he the guy?
yeah,
And even once you know he's the guy, it's like, does he deserve to be murdered and tied to
yeah,
a tree in the forest? I think the most interesting thing is that it sounds like he walks away in the end. Like the peg leg steps like fade into the distance. And that could be that they're not real. That could be that he's just like sending a warning and being like, I know you, I know where you live, but I'm not going to I'm not going to continue this cycle. It's sinister, but it's also maybe a sign of things have improved, but also that it's a pretty I still don't know how to feel about it. And I saw this movie back in, September, and I plan to buy it when it comes to Criterion Collection in August. Like this movie rules. That's all there is
it's
to it.
really cool. Yeah. No, I definitely feel that. I think, yeah, there's maybe an argument to be made that he's going to continue to be a dick, but it's like it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
There are like different levels of like Donald Trump is obviously someone who is going to continue to do bad things and have a huge influence on the world, or like your
Right.
Elon Musk's or whatever, right? In a way that,
Mm-hmm.
your average Iceman, like, maybe they do open like a antique shop in the woods and like don't interact with people anymore and aren't a bother for the rest of
Sure.
their days. Like, I think those are maybe there's a gap there, and there's like a lot of room for nuance there as well. And it's like you don't fully know where this guy's, but clearly he like still has these like radical beliefs and is like viewing these people like, I think the way he talks about them once like the musk comes off and
Mm-hmm.
he's like calling them scum and like that kind of stuff, it's like, oh, like he still fully is like this like complete jackass. And like what, like
They say at one
uh
point,
uh
you speak as if you're like a member of ISIS, and he kicks him in the head, which is a very
mm,
shocking moment where he,
mm,
because our boy, our main protagonist, is typically like kind of meek, even though he does the initial
yeah.
like setup. Um, yeah, I don't know if Ekbal has capacity to change. The movie seems to think that the movie does not give you an answer.
Hamid has the part about like, because they're like their children or whatever, but he's like they're gonna be raised to be assholes or whatever. And like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not 0% true that like that guy's worldview is not gonna have an influence. You're they're being Hamid is 100% being an asshole in the situation of like having zero sympathy, like fuck them kids, like type of attitude, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, he's talking
and
about a
that kind
baby.
of
He's talking about
logic
an
is
unborn
like
baby at that
used
moment.
to, I mean, that is like the logic of like the Israeli genocide, like explicitly. They're like, or the
Mm-hmm.
Palestinian genocide, like the Israeli government's like explicitly been like, if we leave any surviving children, then they're gonna hate Israel. It's
Yeah,
like, good point. That's true, but in
and you
that
shouldn't
situation,
bomb
it's
them
maybe a little bit more
to
justified.
the
Um,
fucking
maybe
ends
you
of the
shouldn't
earth.
fucking
Yeah.
bomb them. But I think like with it in that situation, it's like we're talking about like two specific kids. It's maybe a little bit. Yeah, I think Hamid's like pretty obviously being a jackass there.
Well, Mallory, we've been asking a lot of questions as this movie uh, tends to make us, but the one I want to know the most is why did we both wear green today? Because we did not coordinate it, and I've been wondering that the entire time.
Um, I wasn't sure what to wear. I didn't have any clothes that really looked like any of the
I
characters.
think doing not a cosplay this episode is probably a good idea. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
I thought about doing a white dress for like the bridal theme, but I don't have
Sure.
like a veil or anything. That's I'm sorry, we haven't commented on the main part of the movie, which is the comedy, me busting out laughing every time it's like, now the woman in a bridal dress is having to push a van through the street, and now the woman
Yes.
with the bridal dress is like at a gas station, and you can
Have you
see
seen the
like the
poster
bottom
for
of
the
it getting
movie?
browner and browner. No, I haven't. It's got to
It's
look
just like
good.
it's from the scene where they're all like arguing out in the desert, and it's just like her with like her hands like on her chin, like in the back of the van, looking really upset, and like everyone standing. Like it's an ensemble cast poster, but yeah, the wedding dress, super iconic visual, just like the entire time, and it's
Really,
like the
really
symbol of
funny.
it's like this symbol of like purity and like starting, fresh foot, like starting off, and it's yeah, getting the veil is getting just completely destroyed
Just
throughout
getting,
the
yeah,
events of the
dragged into the
movie.
dirt. So
Yeah,
funny.
into the dirt, into the
Um,
shit, literally, like it. Yeah,
so
we didn't
good.
do any
Yeah.
categories because we were so into the morals and the story and whatnot. But I think we did diva of the evening, which goes to the best character of all time, my
Yeah.
favorite, Hamid. Um, better a pig than a fascist. How appropriate for this episode.
Mm.
There's a quote right in the beginning of the movie that jumped out to me like crazy at the second time watching it, which is the little girl says he killed a dog, God has nothing to do with it. And I wanted to call that out really quick just to tell you a very funny story, which is when I was watching this movie the first time, and they leave him on the side of the road, like when they've decided not to kill him, I thought, like, in my heart, I was like, he's going to get hit by a car. Because it'd be the dog from the beginning. It'd be like, oh, there are no lights, which means I was justified in making this mistake that killed a life. Like, I was like, he's going to be, like, walking, like, disheveled, injured or what have you, like, on the side of the road and just get hit by a car. And that's how it's going to resolve it.
Man.
That would
If
be a worse
only.
movie, but I thought I was being clever when I thought of it. I thought I had picked up on what was going to happen.
You're like, I've solved your riddle puzzle, master. And the movie's like, nope.
No, Jafar Panahi is a little smarter than that, I think.
Yeah, no, he's running circles around us. Now would pirates help in this movie?
No.
I don't really think
we don't
so.
have to do the
I
Fortnite
think-
skin. We don't have to do the pirates,
I don't think that
Gush
there should be
Zone,
pirates
please
in
see
the
the
movie.
last hour,
Yeah, this is a good movie. I like.
Is
it
there
a
any,
lot,
like,
and-
one shot that you enjoyed, like, in terms of our directed by Takeshi Koike award? Like,
I mentioned my favorite two. I think there's a couple really long. There's like one. Number 3 is like probably, the couple is on the balcony, and then Shiva, who's like being the wedding photographer at the time, is like taking the picture, and she's like having him switch places multiple times because she's like lost focus
distracted.
because of
Yeah.
and she then like goes to the other edge of the wall to like go around a corner to like have a phone call or whatever. And like that whole, there's a lot of really like long exposed continuous shots that really like get my brain going, tick 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 ticking and like enjoying it. So like that being like number 3 in terms of like my favorite one, easily like the one that they're out in the desert and it's like they're having all these like interactions and monologues, and then obviously the ending scene of like the
bathed in the red light and all that.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, there's other cool stuff that happens, but I love all of those so much.
You called it out earlier, but the one that's shot from inside the van of Shiva going to recruit Hamid, and now knowing how difficult this movie was to make, and the fact that her walking around without a hijab is like a big deal, which, I mean, I kind of knew that. I'm not a complete idiot, but I look at that and I'm like, how the fuck did they make this? And it's like, did they shoot it from within the van because out of necessity to not get caught? Like, it's impressive, and I'm amazed by this movie and its existence for many reasons.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. I think it's a good place to leave off. Mallory,
Yeah.
do you think it's a B? Like, where do you come down on this? What's your rank?
This feels like the most inappropriate thing to rank in the whole
To rank
thing.
ever? Yeah, I know how you feel.
There's something, I put something in S recently that I was like, I shouldn't have put it. I think it was Bugle Call. I think it was like Bugle Call is so
You did
good.
put Bugle Call in S. Bugle Call is really good.
It's really good.
I've hit
but
you
it
with a
should
lot
have
of
been
S's in a row, and I'm pretty happy about that.
Because you hit me with something last week that was like the best thing
Yokohama
ever.
Kadashi
I don't
Kiko.
remember. Yeah, that was an S. So I don't know. I think
There's a debate going on. I'm assuming between A and S. I'm assuming between Angel and
Yeah.
Trap Queen, right?
Trap Queen. It just feels insulting to even call it. Can I have like a new little bubble that pops? Like, because even to give it the highest honor that I'm able to give it, which is Trap Queen, feels like offensive. I feel like if it has its
Mallory,
own
I'd have to give it Skong Watch. So yeah, I know what you
bubble.
mean.
It just has its own little bubble, and it's called like.
Actually good movie. Like, this is not our dumb bullshit.
Like it's like I'm deeply grateful to you for spending this time with me.
Well, Mallory,
That's
the
the name of the
Oscars
category.
didn't award this movie, so we should. We give it the Nobody Leaves first official Oscar. How do you feel about that?
What? That's crazy. Okay, that's it. It's called the Oscars.
Jafar Panahi, I'd like to award you this 2-cent Oscar statue that my friend got me when we watched the Oscars. Excellent time. Mallory, do you have anything to say? Because I'm taking your entire ranking from you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm here speaking.
I'm sorry, we
on
don't have any more
behalf of
time. Play her off.
I'm-
No, that cut it out. How'd you not know I was going to do that?
No, I was hoping that you would because I didn't have a speech.
We just
Um,
wanted you to sing a song. We didn't want you to actually say anything. You know, we'll give you the award because people will be
oh,
mad otherwise.
sake.
But no, Mallory, golden. Get with the program.
I know it's golden. I'm just trying to be funny. All right, well,
What do you
listen.
actually? You can't have the tier list be lopsided. What are you actually putting it on? We can't have it in
No,
its own
it's
category.
getting its own new category, which I was about to name. Thank you very much for spending time with us. I greatly appreciate you, and I respect you a lot. That was what I was gonna call it, and then you said it should be the Oscars. So now there's just a new thing, and it's called the Oscars. And this one gets an Oscar, and it's not gonna
see.
happen unless you just keep pitching me like other, like unless we're watching like Holocaust movies or whatever that are like really well made, then it's not gonna be in there. But I don't know, this it feels offensive to be like, yeah,
This
like
is so much
she's in
work
the
for
kitchen
you
cooking
who
pies
makes
in
the
the
tier
movie.
pages. Like, this is just a pain in the ass for you. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, it is. But here, it's fine. I'll have one. It's a floating overlay of like Oscars, and it's just this, and then I'll just leave it in there
I'm sure that
over
will
my
look great.
tiers. I'll add one more layer to the Premiere file. Sam, you know
Mallory.
we're well, Sam. Last week you tried to pitch me something, and then I got really mad. And I normally don't get very mad on this podcast. I'm like really peaceful and nonviolent,
Yeah,
as we've
totally.
established in this episode.
100%. I think we advocated for
I
murder like 6 times in this podcast, but you know, that's the way the world's going right now. Anyway.
I kind of said it because I think part of me is like, oh man, I want to continue to enjoy the freedom of being able to say that on the internet before it gets taken away. And also enjoying the freedom of obscurity and not that many people watching this podcast.
That's fair.
But I think that you know, you said we should watch a certain thing that I love a lot last
I
week,
did.
and I said no, that's mine to pitch. You're not delta-ruining me again.
I didn't pitch it, to be clear. I said, Mallory, why have you not pitched this in a year and a half of doing this podcast?
I wrestled it out of your hands, and now I'm going to throw it back at you. Sam, it's time to take off with Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, the fucking best anime they ever made, and it's so good.
I've been waiting for it for months. I've not watched it. I keep seeing like spoilers and like shorts and whatever. Seems like a really cool show. I like Scott Pilgrim, the original movie. Mallory showed it to me in high school and then forgot that I had seen it, which was a little hurtful, but that's okay. We're we can't all be very nice. We can't all be good friends, you know. That's how it is.
It's how it is, you know. But I think Scott Pilgrim is my favorite movie for a long time. A lot of problematic elements. And then they made an anime and fixed it. And they put my favorite band in the opening, Necrotalkie. And we're going to Necrotalkie about them a lot.
Let's Necrotalkie about it next week.
Until then, Sam, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Mallory, I'm going to let you have the van. Have a good evening.
Yeah.